And we are live. Once again, it's Wow Ergonomics. It's that time of the week. It's lunchtime, so you all clear off to get your Greg's sausage rolls and whatever else that you want. But do come back straight away with it and a cup of tea, if you've got one of those, or a cup of coffee, and sit and talk to us about what's going on in the world of work for something like 45 minutes and enjoy the conversation as we talk about today, first and foremost, standy uppy, sitty downy desks, or a sit stand desk, or rise and fall desk, or whatever other terminology you want to use. How's your week been, Stephen?
Yeah, pretty good. I was going to say the other reason for staying with us, Graham, of course, is it's a 45-minute break from the UK politic storm that's brewing out there, isn't it? So if for no other reason, we promise not to discuss anything to do with the letters P and M.
Well, if minutes were days and days were minutes, then we will be in power here for as long as Liz was. So
no more than that. That's it. We're done. We've had our chance. We're moving on now.
Okay, so I want to bring in our special guest for today. We've got Harry. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, Harry. You're welcome, guys.
Hey,
can you hear me okay? See me okay?
Just about, yeah. A little bit of Twitter, but yeah, not too bad at all. And then we've also got Scott. Hi, Scott. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Scott.
Just a quick set of introductions. So, Harry, if you could tell everyone where you're from, what you do in life, and what color car you drive.
Yeah. So I'm Harry from Lavoro Design. I'm a salesperson at Lavoro. We manufacture height adjustable desks. That's the term we use. And I drive a white car.
There you go. Same here. So, Stephen, what colour car do you drive?
Black.
Less
washing required in the winter.
True, but apparently black cars are 3 times more likely to be involved in road accidents.
Thanks for that.
No, sorry, it's just a statistic. And Scott.
I'm Scott. I'm founder of War Agency. We're a personal and business branding agency, mainly working on LinkedIn. I also have a white car. It's not a van. Seems like I'm qualified to be here.
Yeah. So it's a free against one there on the car front.
But remember, Graham, if you recall back to earlier in the year, I actually was involved in a road accident where a Premier League footballer smashed into the back of my car, I think we did that story anyway.
That
so we won't.
Then, wasn't it? So let's start with Harry. Height adjustable desks.
Mm-hmm.
Really, all over the pandemic, we suddenly saw people going, oh, wow, there's these desks that can go up and down. They've been around for years, absolute years, height adjustable desks. Why do you think suddenly people were going, let's look into this technology?
There's a few different factors that we put it down to. I think over the pandemic particularly, people really focused on their health. Not just physical well-being, but mental well-being as well. And working from home, we all had to make sure we had a workspace set up, somewhere that we were comfortable. And not only that, but a lot of companies were giving budgets out to their employees. So they had this disposable income to spend on the workspace. So it wasn't their money. They were happy throwing all sorts at this type of product.
I think one of the other things has been that when I first started selling height adjustable desks back in the Middle Ages, they were really quite expensive as well. I don't think you could get a height adjustable desk for anything shy of £2,000. And in fact, a lot of the ones that I was selling back then were probably about £3,500.
Yeah.
Clearly, they've changed in terms of where they sit budget wise now.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of different things happen over the past 2 years. There's a lot of imported product coming in, and the cost of manufacturing is coming down. Well, it's really changed the landscape of that type of product. Whereas you say £2,500, £3,000, however long ago, Now you can pick them up for £300-400, or you can get really, really good quality product for £700 or £800. So there's all different varieties for people out there.
Scott, let's come to you. You decided that you needed a height adjustable desk. What was it that tipped the balance for you?
So I actually decided this about 9 months ago, and I've had my height adjustable desk for about 9 months, and I've only used it to sort of change the height of where I put my legs on the desk, and spending sort of 8-9 hours a day hunched over, destroying my back, and spend my overtime going to the gym. So anything that sort of can destroy your posture, I've been attempting to do it. I bought the desk originally. I got a Costco special. I think it was just shy of £300 or something like that.
Look at Harry's face. Look at Harry's face when he said that.
It's done the job so far. It's entered me into the market. But yeah, I've been using it for the last sort of week to 10 days after seeing a physio, and a physio saying, you really need to stand up a bit more and your back is not good from being hunched over a computer all day. And I've used it all week this week, and my productivity, I was just saying to Graham before we went live, my productivity has been so much higher. And also, so a lot of what I do is thinking of ideas and being creative, actually just changing your environment slightly, standing up, standing away, writing. I've got a little whiteboard here I write my ideas out on. Just sort of changing that balance than just being sedentary the whole time has really made a difference. And also just from a being comfortable perspective, it's been good to change it up. So yeah.
That sort of testimonial is sort of music to your ears, I guess, Harry, because they're the things that, you know, that Graham and I have spoken about. You will talk about as a business, as Lavoro. What Scott's saying is what you want to hear, because actually it's a perfect testimonial for look at the benefit of using a height adjustable desk. Look at the benefits Scott has felt. This is perfect, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, 100%. And quite often, I was exactly the same. Before actually joining Lavoro as a company, I hadn't looked at height adjustable desks. I didn't really know they were a thing at that time. But once using them and once working from them for as long as I have now, I don't think I definitely wouldn't be able to go back to a static workstation. I just couldn't do it. It's until you've used it and until you've had that time to work in that way, you sort of enlightens you.
Okay, let's take the question that's been posed by Richard. Or isn't a height adjustable desk the same thing as a height adjustable chair? and most chairs are height adjustable unless you're sitting on that dining room stool still. Move desk up and chair up equals zero change. Move chair down, you get my point. Whatever next, height adjustable floors. The answer to that is not, because you are completely changing, Richard, the physical stance of the body. So with a chair, yes, moving it in increments up or down in order to, as Scott was saying right at the beginning, just to change where you are in position to the desk, does change some of the placement of the body, does change sort of pressure around the legs, may actually change where your back is getting support or how open your spine is or how close your spine is. But actually, when your pelvis is completely rotated upright for standing, it's a completely different spinal position from sitting. Did you want to take that, Harry?
Yeah, it definitely is. And the other thing that people don't quite, some people find a misconception in is that if you have a chair that's adjustable, that's great, but that doesn't take into account that some people are, I don't want to say disproportionate, but you know, everyone has a different body composition. So you may have a longer torso than most, or you may have longer legs than most. So yes, you can adjust the chair, but being able to just move that desk even a few inches can make a massive difference in how you're sitting at a workstation, let alone standing. Standing up at a workstation is
Oh, it's not my dog for once.
I was going to say, it's usually your dog, Graham, Scott.
I'm also going to say, you know, as a workplace assessor, when I was out and about, I wish everybody had the option of a height adjustable desk, because, you know, one of the things with that as well is that clearly, if you're unable to, if you're too tall for a desk and the desk is at a static position, it's okay if the person was too short in a way, because you could give them a footrest. But if someone's too tall, you can't change terra firma. You can't actually, as Richard was talking about, you can't actually change the position of the floor. So therefore, you had to actually raise the surface at which you're sitting so that you can actually sit that much higher.
Yeah.
One thing I'd add to what we just said. So I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I got an Apple Watch. I'm not wearing it today, but it has like your stand goal on it.
Right.
And every like hour and a half, 2 hours, it's like, you need to stand up. I didn't realize until I got one of these probably silly watches that I was sat down for so long. It was like, you haven't stood up for 6 hours. I was like, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that can't be doing any good for your spine or your posture. I also use an iPad where I crouch over and I write. So like when one of my clients has a mobility company, and he's commented a few times and said, Scott, that your posture looks horrendous because I'm hunched over to the side writing, and it's just doing me no good. So now I stand like this.
So I'm quite interested, Scott, because one of the things that Graham and Harry will know very well is that sort of balance between sitting and standing. I'm really interested. How have you decided on your sitting and standing policy, strategy, whatever you're going to do? How have you come to that, and how has it worked out so far?
So I've split it so far. It seems to work. Is I do calls and meetings stood up, and I'll do so most of my work is writing. So I'll do my heavy actual typing, writing, or reply to emails and stuff stood up, things like that, which aren't taking too much brain power. But if I need to sit and I really need to think and actually do the work, I'll sit down.
Yeah.
But I also work in like 1 hour increments. So regardless if I have meetings, I have a thing that buzzes and it's like, move on to the next task, because I get swallowed up in something. Okay. So it buzzes, I move on to the next task, and I'm sort of using that as my prompt to stand or sit up. Which seems to work quite well. But I work in a co-working space like 2-3 days a week. So I'm sort of, where I don't have a standing desk there, I'm just standing up, going for a walk for 5 minutes, coming back, and sort of trying to change my environment a little bit.
I have to say I'm exactly the same. That's what I've implemented as well. So I will now stand for meetings, client meetings, etc. I will stand for, I go to a networking group every Thursday morning. I stand for the hour and a half of that. If it's work-based tasks where I'm really having to focus, I will sit. And we've talked about that before, the psychology of that, and why maybe, it's easier for us to do that. And maybe with time that will change as well, because one of the things I've said is that actually in school, you're taught all of the time to sit when you're actually focusing on something, where it's a written task or whatever. So I'm sure to some degree we're psychologically programmed to kind of see sitting down as a thing that we do when we focus, as opposed to standing. But I can't see any day now us having classes of school kids standing to do maths and English. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Finland will grab hold of that.
That's an interesting point you've raised there, Graham. And I'd throw it over to Harry, I guess, is the sort of the people you're talking to, Harry. Are you seeing people from the education sector talking around sit-stand desks? Because as you say, you can't just suddenly kit out hundreds and thousands and millions of pupils with sit-stand desks. I wonder if that concept is making its way through to education, and whether it's becoming a future consideration.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and we are having conversations with people that are looking to introduce these types of products into educational spaces. There's a couple of challenges we have with that, whereby you can't have a row of 30 workstations all plugged in a school. It doesn't work. They're looking for more of the mobile options in a smaller profile, and quite often with a manual mechanism, whether that's hand crank, whether that's gas lift. That's what we're seeing. And it's also more of a smaller proportion. So whereas they may say, we're going to have 30 workstations, we need 10 or 20% to be, height adjustable. It also comes down to accessibility and needs. What do people need these days? because wheelchair users quite often find it uncomfortable to be sat at a static workstation.
And we take that. We've had that point from Catherine Lyons, who's put a message in. So having a height adjustable desk is helpful for the disabled as well as for the variable heights of the individual. As someone who is 198 centimeters tall, I can never get my head around centimeters in terms of height. Finding a desk that supports me is important.
That's about 6'6", 6'7", isn't it?
Is it really
198?
Wow. Yeah, it must be
6'7". Wow,
that's tall. Absolutely tall. Now, listen, Scott, thanks for coming today, and I thank you for your time. But just before you go, I just wanted to deal with this Costco thing, right? So you obviously know what an entry level is. Perhaps Harry could give you very quickly before you go what gives you a better quality height adjustable desk, because it might be a lot of people looking at them go, well, a height adjustable desk is a height adjustable desk, the same way as a chair is a chair, and we know that that's not clearly the case. So what does the next level up look like? What does it give you?
It gives you a lot of things, really. The main things that we look for with quality of product is the thickness of the steel that goes into the product. So where you have these imported products, the way that they're saving on the cost is through thickness of steel, electronic manufacturing, etc. What we find with the products that are manufactured with a thicker steel is that you get the stability 100%. You get more smoothness in the motion of the desk. You quite often, as you level up, you can put more weight bearing on the desk. So if you're someone that has 3 screens and sound system, whatever it may be, you really want to have your product on the most sturdy, secure workstation possible, because it's expensive equipment. So you would spend the additional money on keeping that safe. Also, you find more variants. So whereas with a product that may be imported from, say, an Eastern country, there was that ongoing joke of you can have it in silver, white top, and you can have it in 6 weeks. It's not the case with someone like Lavoro Design, because we've got 18 top finishes. We've got 7 different frame variations. So it all comes down to it. Plus, when you're looking at bigger picture, the post-sale support, we're a UK-based company. We pride ourselves on that. So it's just bigger picture view as well.
There you go, Scott. So just so you know, for the future,
there you go. Well, mine is silver with a white top. Yeah, I'd agree with Harry's points. I think just someone like me, it was just sort of a cheap entry level product. See whether I use it. Now I'm using it. Obviously, it makes sense to level up. So I'm sure Harry, I'll be in touch soon to level up my workstation. So there you go.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful thing. We brought people together once again. Thanks, Scott, for your input today. It's been really valuable. It's been great to hear it from the horse's mouth. This is, that physios were telling you, get moving, get up, use it on that desk properly rather than just putting your feet on it. And the movement works, So thanks for joining us. I'll let you go and I'll catch up with you soon. Thank you very much.
Scott.
Cheers, Scott.
I just want to grab you quickly there for a minute, though, Harry, before you leave us. So quite interesting to hear that from the horse's mouth. That that it is working. People are beginning to say to physios out there are beginning to say, get the movement in. Just let's debunk the myth, though, because we did talk about seating earlier, etc. I mean, for me, one of the great myths that's appeared in the middle of all of this is it's either sitting or standing. It's either buy a decent chair or buy a sit-stand workstation or buy a height adjustable workstation. For me, it's actually both and more, because I don't prescribe to the fact that you can, and if you stand all day, you're actually going to potentially cause yourself a problem as well. If you sit all day, you're going to definitely cause yourself a problem. But also there's an element in there where you need to move as well. I think everybody that's a professional in this arena recognizes that they also need to talk about, there are points in the day where you shouldn't be using our product. Yeah. There are points in the day where you actually need to go for a walk. There are points in the day where you actually need to get away from the desk full stop.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. It's all about variance. And one thing that actually I think, Stephen, you know him very well, Guy Osmond. I spoke to him recently, and he was really big on the fact that it's not best for you to stand for 2 hours at a time. It's not best for you to sit for 2 hours at a time. The actual benefit comes in that transition period from going from sitting to standing, from standing to sitting. Like you say, going out for a walk. It's the transition that is really good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a really easy answer to all of this, which is everybody move out of bungalows. Bungalows are killing people. All right.
Okay. Right.
Well, I deliberately bought a house with three lots of stairs. You know,
Keep you active.
I tell you what. You know, if I need a glass of water, I've literally got to go down 3 flights of stairs to get that glass of water. I mean, it makes a difference, right? I mean, when we first moved in here, the first 2 weeks while we were bringing in boxes and taking them up and down to wherever they needed to be, I was absolutely shattered because, you know, wasn't used to that, wasn't used to, you know, the steps. And actually, if you think about, I know that what I'm saying sounds a little bit frivolous, but if you think about it, in some ways, a lot of people during the pandemic as well have kind of moved away from that, because in offices, quite often, especially a big corporate office, there are different floors.
Yeah.
You know, and you may have taken the commute there, you may have actually walked into it, but also, you know, you would perhaps walk to the canteen area. You might have walked up and down a couple of flights of stairs to visit someone on a different floor. Now you're sat at home. You're not moving anywhere at all. So, you know, and the thing is, this is the weirdest thing. People are going, well, I haven't got any time. But you were doing your work before, and you were making these trips to speak to somebody else. You wouldn't have picked up, you know, pressed the button and zoomed somebody and gone, right, let's have a meeting about this. You would have actually physically gone to see them. So you kind of got to build in those elements to your day again, even if your life has completely changed around and you know you're now working from home.
I'm interested, Harry, what's the biggest sort of challenge you get when you're talking to maybe some sort of, whether it's a corporate organization or end users? What's a common sort of, you know, we're talking about myths and debunking things. What's the biggest sort of challenge or misnomer you tend to come across? What message as an ergonomic industry have we not managed to get out there that is still coming back to you time and time again?
I think the biggest thing that you have to provide, and again, this may be me assuming things because we work through our distributors, so it's quite often them having these conversations. But one thing we find, not so much a challenge, but people need to really emphasize is the value on having these products, because quite often, from a business owner perspective, yes, you're investing a lot in this equipment, and yes, it's going to be quite a lot at the front end. But when you look about what the payoff can be in terms of increased productivity, when you're looking at staff well-being, when you're looking at, you know, if you've got someone that comes to you and says, I'm taking 3 weeks off on sick because my back isn't okay, you know, in the long term, it creates such a better environment to work from. So I would say we really need to emphasize the value outside of monetary terms that this provides.
Yeah. But even then, I've always was surprised, going back to when I used to sell this stuff, etc. I was always surprised at how, dare I say it, stupid people were when it came to looking at the maths, because they would go, what, it's that amount to put that into my office, but it's not that amount, because you are supplying desks. You are supplying, it's the same with chairs. You are supplying chairs. Those have a cost. It's not that it's, you know, it's not that it is £500 a desk. You're probably already spending £300 a desk. So it's the differential between the two, and then the return on investment of that differential. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. And the big thing we're seeing at the moment is, I'd like to say the newer or younger and more innovative companies, they're the ones that are really adopting this concept. You see the likes of Gymshark, all of their workstations are height adjustable, because again, they swing back round to that whole physical fitness, but also the mental fitness. And it's just the newer companies are really adopting that and putting employee well-being first.
You're absolutely right. I literally just finished writing a newsletter on that this morning, or an article on that this morning. You know, I think there's a new generation of CEO coming in, and because I think the difference is because health and well-being are a massive part of their lifestyle, they want to make that part of the objective and ethos of their business. Because I think the younger generation of CEO understand that it is about work-life balance. It is about, you know, if I'm fit and I'm healthy, I can be productive. Therefore, they will walk the walk, and if they're walking the walk, they want everybody to walk that walk. Whereas you know, previously it's, you know, and I've been there and I've assessed some old school CEOs, and some of the rubbish that's come out of people's mouths has been unbelievable. You know, it's like, well, but I can sit here all day long and not move, and it's fine. You know, it's and then you go, well, why am I here then? It's because you've had heart murmurs, or you know, you've got this condition, you've got that condition, you've got terrible backache. That's why I'm here. And yet you're telling me that it's all good.
The one thing to think about as well, I know, Stephen, you'll have experienced this a lot. Graham, I'm not too sure how much you traveled around as sort of a rep as such, but when you're going on longer journeys in the car, quite often you would stop for 20, 30 minutes at a time, just because you need to have that break. You need to refocus yourself. Your back's starting to feel a bit funny. All of these things. Can you imagine how far you'd have got if you could spend that 30 minutes still driving? It's the same with working. You could be sitting down for so long, and then you go off for a walk, you go make a coffee, and it interrupts your day. If you can just stand up, you've changed your position, you've refocused, you can carry on. It's so much more productive.
No, it is. I used to do, just so you know, Harry, I used to do about 80,000 miles a year.
Wow.
There you go.
There we go.
So
you used to drive a black cab in London, didn't you, to get those sort of miles?
No. I actually used to drive a van and do that, believe it or not. 80,000 miles a year. And my top tip for anybody actually out there is, if you're doing the miles, always stop at a service station where they've got a bridge, right? And I would always make sure that I'd stop on one side, but I'd always go to the other side. So I'd always have to cross over the bridge, do the steps, and then cross back over again. Never stop. Never just use the facilities on that side.
Good stuff. I'll make note of that one.
There you go.
It works. It works. Yeah, it's you know, it's getting the feet going. Harry, thanks for joining us today.
Brilliant. Thank you.
It's been good. Thanks for your time. If people want to find out about Harry and his company and what they do in terms of height adjustable desking, please connect with Harry on the social medias. Okay, are you on anything other than LinkedIn, Harry?
From a work point of view, it's primarily LinkedIn, but
it's primarily LinkedIn.
Yeah, highly active. So do send me a message or connection. All of that. There you go.
Stuff. So anybody watching this on the Twitter, you might have to dive over to the dark side to find Harry. Harry, thanks for joining us today.
Cheers, Harry. Thanks,
guys. Catch up again soon.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
Yeah, really good. And actually some really interesting comments as well coming in. And I know there's a couple we haven't touched on, and we can probably kick those round. But it was great to get some sort of interaction from Catherine and Richard about their sort of perception and experience of sit stand.
No, absolutely. I like this one from Richard, actually. I'm very disproportionate, so it's like in a car, black or white. Moving, doesn't matter what colour it is. Moving seat and steering wheel separately to fine-tune position. Yeah, it is in a way, but it is more than that. It is a complete change of pelvic position. I wish I had a spine here to show you.
Yes.
Not a real one, maybe kind of a rubber composite type one or something like that. But ultimately, when the pelvis kind of rotates round, which it does to sit, it opens up the facet joints in the spine, and then you actually start to get this kind of curvature in the lower spine, which and ultimately the spine is trying to keep that shut, so it's kind of playing against it all the time, which is why we, it's quite good when you sit actually sometimes to sit with your drop in the front of the seat and actually drop your pelvis forward. Drop your legs forward to open up the pelvis. And we didn't talk about perching, but that's great as well. But standing, obviously the pelvis comes right back neutral again, and so actually it completely changes that spinal position. So working between the two is completely different, and it uses a completely different set of muscles, as I can contest to.
But the interesting thing, Graham, as well is to make sure, and it was interesting as to what was said earlier, is that people don't go the other way and they just stand all day, because it's called a sit stand desk. It isn't called a sit desk or a stand desk. It's a combination. And I know it's very obvious, but you'll then start to have a whole load of other problems and physical experiences when people stand too long. And it'll be problems different to the sitting too long, but those problems, it's that balance, it's that, height adjustable, as Harry said, it's the adjusting between the two different positions that's really, really important.
Well, you've got a bit of software, haven't you? You've got a bit of software at Backer.
I mean, that's one of the things we do, which is sort of a piece of software called Work and Move, and the idea is it will prompt you and encourage you to change your position throughout the day. And what you can do with the software is you can set sort of the parameters. So you could set it so that you do 30 minutes sitting and then 6 minutes standing, or whatever you'd like to do. So you've got the ability to do that. So it's a great way of sort of coaching and prompting you throughout the working day. But as I say, I think it's really important that people just don't go the other way, go from one extreme to the other and stand for too long. Otherwise, we then start to bring, a whole load of other issues to the fore.
Well, that's what Harry's company need to do in the future. You see, is they should have like a desktop where the desktop changes color. Right there, you go. So it's
standing
like
color and a sitting color.
Is it? No, there's 3 colors. Right, so it's like a traffic light system, yeah.
Right.
So it's like.
Hang on, just before we go into this, do we need to maybe copyright this and take this offline so we don't? Because this could be a really great idea. No, carry on.
It is a really great idea. Okay. But Harry, if you're watching, you can use it, but just chuck us an Amazon voucher at Christmas. So basically,
a very big Amazon voucher.
Yeah, a big one. So it's basically it'd be green for stand up, because that's it's a desk. So green for stand up. It would be red for green for stand up. It would be amber for sit, and then it go red, and then it's time to move.
Okay.
See, that'd be great, wouldn't it? So you have a little traffic. You could just have a little pop-up traffic light, if not on the desk.
Yeah.
And it just pops up, and it's like do, and it's like I know what I need to do now.
I wonder if such a thing exists already. I hope not.
If anybody's got a technology similar to that, I'm
trying to think of something else that exists in other fields that does a similar sort of thing. You'd think that's something that people have got to be thinking about, wouldn't you?
Yes,
you'd think that.
Interesting question. I also wonder why the height adjustable desk never goes low enough for the little person. I'm 6'6". So when I'm interested to know. Do you know what you're talking about in terms of little person? Part of it will be possibly just to do with standard frame structures. It might be that a company like Harry's might well be able to manufacture something that's lower.
Because I can't think. What's the? Do they vary between something like 40 odd and I can't think what the parameter is. It's 40 odd to 70 odd, or
I'm going to say, from what I remember, a lot of the lowest ones are around, the lowest kind of height would be around about 600, and it probably won't go lower than 600, because that is quite low.
Yeah.
If you think that the sort of a British standard, if you like, or average mean standard for a desk height, which is what most desks come out at, is around about 630. This is millimeters.
Yeah.
It's, most manufacturers make it go a little bit lower than that.
Yeah.
So a little bit lower than the mean average, and then an awful lot higher.
What we'll do is we'll find
out
what it is, Graham, and we'll tag it in the comments afterwards.
I mean, what you've got to consider is, in order for it to achieve the highest height that it needs to achieve, it's obviously a telescopic system.
Yes.
So you can own, if you've got a piece inside a piece, it's determined by the length of that piece that it needs to then go up to.
It's going up in multiples, isn't it? So, there we go. Harry's given us the answer.
Send the message 625 to 1285, adjustment from bottom to top. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. And presumably, Harry, that is to do with the fact that it's a telescopic system, and therefore, the first bit, in order to achieve that 1285, that's double 625, or near enough, and therefore that's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
Dwarfism, or achondroplasia, or pseudo achondroplasia, or any of those other conditions, typically what you can find is that you can put a footrest in under there as well, though, so you can actually bring terra firma up with a footrest and then use that with the height adjustable desk. Right, and that's probably wow. I have two friends who are 2'11" and 3'8" tall in their 20s. That's incredible. It's also perhaps worth speaking to a specialist seating manufacturer, because there are some seating manufacturers who can produce foot plates that go on the chair that actually will give the foot support.
Yeah.
There are ways and means of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Gosh. I love that. I love all of the interaction today. That's great.
Yeah.
Glad to see all of that coming back, because it's been a bit quiet recently. And yet suddenly today it's all there again. But
I think that was one of the reasons what we discussed it offline, wasn't it, Graham? Was getting the show back to a regular day and regular time, and trying to make it that we were chopping and changing, and now we've got a regular slot. It's great. We got a lot of interaction. Good to see some new commenters, and also Richard, who's been a regular commenter over the last sort of 6 to 12 months as well. So yeah,
Richard, thanks for your time, Richard.
Welcome
Richard,
back.
who also likes to do pigeon watch.
Okay.
No pigeons today. It's an in-joke. No. Sorry for anybody that's listening on Spotify. Yeah. Great news during the week. And for those of you that don't realise, there is a place that you can go to where you can get all of the pre-existing episodes of this, which I now have realised people spend an enormous amount of time listening to, which is wowergonomics.co.uk. And so we have a website, but also I got a message which I shared with you.
You did,
Stephen, during the week. Spotify have actually sent me a message saying a lot of people are actually listening to this on Spotify. So thanks people who listen to this on Spotify. It's really very, very welcome indeed. I reckon it's down to the fact that a lot of people drive, and to talking about what Harry said earlier, do the miles, and they don't have time to actually necessarily stop and watch these things online, or you shouldn't do, because you will get points on your license. But
friend of the show, Chris Barlow from Remtech, I'm sure Chris he was always pounding the motorways. I'm sure he's a regular Spotify listener to the show as well.
Absolutely. Just picking up on that. Yes, but having to climb onto seating is often difficult. Yes, it is. But again, there's some seating manufacturers that could help with that. I'm going to put some people in touch with you later, or I'll pass on some details to you, Catherine, later, of some people that can deal with that. There are ways to help that. Things like stopping the seat from moving, so motion locks to stop the seat from moving so that it's easier to get in, because when it's moving about, that makes it harder. And even electronic height adjustment in the chair, so that the seat tips forward in the first instance so that it's actually lower to the ground. Then you get into it, then it lifts you up. All these things are possible in the world of ergonomics. Fantastic. What else have you been seeing out there in the world of ergonomics lately? Have you been any other news?
I mean, just I guess the main thing I've started to see over the last few weeks, I think, and I'm wondering if it ties back to something that we've kicked around a lot, Graham. I'm seeing a lot of companies now really reinvesting in their workspaces, and I think a lot of that, my feeling on that, as a couple of people have confirmed to me, is that we're now sort of 2 years on, since 2.5 years since the pandemic started. Hybrid home working and whatever has started to kick in, and you're starting to see businesses now sort of give up offices or commitment to space sort of coming to an end. And I think what we're seeing on the back of that, we're now starting to see quite a lot of investment into what people actually need. So the delay of investment has been bound to the fact they've had other overheads and financial considerations. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of space being freed up, and therefore organizations then having a little bit more budget to go and invest in the desking, the monitor arms, the accessories, that sort of thing. So it's just something I've picked up over the last 2 or 3 weeks. A lot of refreshing going on. We're seeing a lot of inquiries for things like monitor arms, which suggests reconfiguration of workspaces and more permanent setups of terms of home and hybrid working. So that's sort of the theme we've seen coming through quite a lot over the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I've certainly seen a few more posts on social media about things like monitor arms. I've also seen some more posts about soft furnishing as well. Even our friend Sam Coggin at the Coggin Group, reusing old desks to create cube type chairs, etc. So it seems that there's obviously more of an interest in those alternative area type furnishings or soft furnishing areas within a business, because presumably more of the design is going that way. Let's, as we said before, let's make the office space something that's different from desk and a chair for everybody. If we've got that spare, or if we've got those spare areas, how do we really make the most of that? So that actually we've created a space here that's really creative, really wants to, really going to encourage people to come back into the office space. Because I still feel that there's a real, push to try and get people back into the office, but it's got to, the office has got to change.
I went yesterday, and I won't say who it was, but an organisation who's a big sort of partner of ours, and I hadn't been to that location for since before COVID. It's probably pushing on 3 years since I've been, and I was really surprised pleasantly as to how they've changed the building, the whole lighting of it, the layout, the small meeting pods, the soft furnishings, all the things we've spoke about. It was great to see, and it was pleasant to see how busy that office was. So actually that investment had worked really well, because they were able to draw people into the office. So the proof was in the pudding. I was actually seeing it happening, but the building was quite unrecognizable for me from when I went pre-March 2020 to when I went yesterday.
I think I'd love to know the figures for two industries. One is biophilia, because I absolutely, I've seen lots of interest on that as well. I'm sure a lot of offices are actually putting more money into biophilic design in order to make the inside look more like the outside. And secondly, neon signs. I just think lots more offices are going to invest in neon signs. It's just, it's retro cool, but it's just going to be there. I pick up on this bit from Catherine Ergonomic design works better within inclusive design. I had to ruminate over that and think about that for a second. My view on that is that good ergonomics is inclusive design. Has to be. It has to be. Ultimately, one of the whole points of ergonomics surely is that actually you are creating an environment that works with the person that's in that environment. If it doesn't work for everybody, you haven't actually achieved what you need in terms of ergonomics. So ultimately, the two are akin for me. I feel that the best, and sometimes that means that the right ergonomic solution has to be not a standard solution that fits everybody, but a different solution for every individual. I know I'm going to get a lot of grief from a lot of architects and designers now who are going to say, yeah, but doesn't it look like a mess when that happens? But ultimately, if you want it to be as inclusive as possible with some products, I'd say things like seating, for example, it has to be a product that enables everybody to achieve what they need to achieve. If not, it doesn't really achieve proper ergonomics. Yeah, absolutely that. If you make everything adjustable, then it makes it more accessible completely.
But we've said this: the better products out there are adjustable, aren't they? They still have parameters, but it's that's the whole thing, is the adjustability to flex around different individuals to give them the same output, but the adjusting of the product itself.
I'd go beyond that as well, Catherine. It's not just adjustable; it has to fit. You can have something that's got a lot of adjustment in it, but if it doesn't fit anybody, in the first place, it doesn't work. Yeah, get what I mean. There you go.
Thanks for joining, Catherine. I think you're new to the show. We really enjoyed having you with us, and come back again. Some really interesting some topics and great points you've raised there. Thank you.
So let's just recap from today, because we've covered a lot of ground. We've covered height adjustable or sit stand desk. We've covered the fact that we found somebody out there who's been recommended this by a physio after really struggling with his back. He's tried it. To begin with, all that happened was that he was using it to put his feet up on at a different height. Then he's realized that actually standing to work as well as sitting to work and adjusting between the two has really helped. So that was Scott. We had Harry on as well from the desking manufacturer, who actually told us that we're beginning, and that was really interesting to begin to hear that yes, they are talking to education establishments about this, and actually maybe with time we can actually change the way that we do tasks, because we actually learn to do those tasks in a different environment in the first place. So that's going to be really interesting. And then we've had a whole conversation around inclusion and accessibility and design as well, and ergonomics. So that's been great. So thanks for the contributions of Catherine Lyons today, Harry Brunt, Scott, who came on, and Richard Urridge as well. And thanks for your contributions as well about crashing in your black car.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah,
no problem. Anytime. Same time next week.
I can't believe that I actually got that right.
Yeah.
Dear, oh dear. We will be back next week. Do come along, stay tuned. We will have next week, we will have Dan Williams on, who's from a company called Visualize. They do workplace assessments for hearing impairment and visual impairment. Dan was going to be here this week, couldn't make it this week. He will be here next week.
Great.
Do we have anyone else next week, Steve?
Not at the moment, but I'm sure we will be able to find one or two other people to join us for the show.
We will grab people off the streets to come along next week. Do check us out on the internet. Do listen back to some other episodes, and if you like it, do subscribe and let other people know, because that would be great. Until next week, this has been Wow Ergonomics with Stephen and Graham. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.